All of us reach a point in time where we are depleted and need to somehow find a way to reignite the fire within. But how do we spark that flame? Welcome to Reignite Resilience, where we will venture into the heart of the human spirit. We'll discuss the art of reigniting our passion and strategies to stoke our enthusiasm. And now, here are your hosts, Natalie Davis and Pamela Cass.
Welcome back to another episode of Reignite Resilience. I'm your co-host, Natalie Davis, and I'm so excited to be back with all of you today. And joining me is your co-host, Pam Cass. Hello, Pam. How are you?
I am good. We were just talking, it's kind of a cold season, and I'm coming off of a conference and I'm fighting a cold right now. So I'm going to power through this. My resilience is going to kick in right now, and I'm just going to be resilient through this podcast today.
Absolutely. Well, you know what? I think this is a good time of year to remind people to take care of themselves, because that is something that the more we spend time with other people, if we're not conscious or intentional about it, we can pick up things that we don't necessarily want to pick up and bring home with us. And I'm one of those people. So we do take a product. We are not doctors, so you check with your physician if you're good before you take it. But we do take a supplement for health and wellness that I introduced Pam to, and it's called Doctor's Best Immunity Support. It's just a ton of vitamins and supplements a ton of vitamins in a supplement that you can take it's supposed to boost your immunity. And you said that you doubled down on it. You're like, I'm doubling up. I'm going to see people.
I doubled it going to the conference, and then while I was there, because I'm like, when you're in Vegas, you don't know who's licking what, and it's like you don't want to touch. You don't want to touch anything. I use my elbows to do the buttons in the elevator, but there's still stuff floating around. And
oh my gosh. I feel like, hey, Vegas, if you pick that up as your new tagline, we'd like royalties on that. You're welcome. Give us a call. Forget the what happens in Vegas tagline. It's you don't know who's licking what. Welcome to Vegas.
Who's licking what? Yeah. And so just don't touch anything.
My goodness. Wow.
Oh my gosh. I didn't know we were going there on the show.
Well, we did. We never know where we're going, and it's always somewhere fun. Somewhere
fun, exactly. Well, with that, we do have a special guest, and I want to make sure that we have ample time to dive in. I'm excited to visit with this person today. So why don't you share with our listeners who's joining us?
Absolutely. So today we have Joe. He is a pioneer in divorce mediation who has been helping couples navigate the end of their marriages with dignity and financial wisdom for over 17 years. As the co-founder of Equitable Mediation Services, Joe combines his MBA in finance with specialized training from Harvard, MIT, and Northwest University to guide couples towards agreement that protect both their emotional well-being and financial futures. Perfect topic. And I'm so excited to dig into this. Having gone through a divorce, I am super interested in this topic. And so welcome to the show. And share with us a little bit about yourself and kind of what got you where you're at today.
Well, thanks for having me. Just to clarify, I have never licked anything in Las Vegas. So I just
Goodness.
want to put that out there
Thank
for
you.
the record. Exactly.
Perfect.
All good.
Yes.
Other cities I can't promise, but Vegas,
But Vegas we're
absolutely
safe.
not. Vegas we're clear. So
Good.
no, oh my goodness. Well, anyway, thanks for having me. Yeah, I have an interesting role as a divorce mediator, helping people end their marriages without the destruction of a litigated attorney-driven divorce. And been doing this a long time. I've been mediating 28 years, which is terrifying to say when you start thinking, well, am I really that old? Okay. And in private practice, coming up on 18 years. So been doing this for a long time and really just try to help people get through the divorce process without it becoming a disaster. And really like what you all talk about, what we think about, in terms of resilience. We want people to know that a divorce doesn't have to be the end of the road. It can be a new beginning, as long as you look at it that way, right? You have to take a look. What happened? Where did things go? What was my role in it? and how can I use this to turn over a new leaf and move forward? And I really, that's what I loved about your podcast. It's just talking about those things that, this, you've still got the rest of your life, right? Hopefully we're all going to live a really long time. And I want those to be great years for the people we work with, and, right in line with what you all are talking about in terms of resilience, moving forward, and, just shake it off and move on forward,
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
in the process, are people coming to you that already have attorneys, or they don't have attorneys, they've just been court appointed to do the mediation?
Yeah, great question. So we are private mediators. We do not handle any court-appointed mediation. And that's funny, you said that, Pam, is because there are some people who go to court, they try to litigate, and in most states now, you do have court-ordered mediation. With court-ordered mediation, you've already entered the legal process, you've most likely retained attorneys, things we've found, at least at that point, people really aren't in the mediation space. They really aren't in the mood to negotiate. So we try to cut them off at the pass, if you will, before they've retained attorneys, before they've entered the court system, and then they work with us privately. And then after they're done with us, then they enter the court system simply for the administrative part of the divorce, the filing, getting the paperwork, and moving through.
Okay. And so your process is a little bit different, because not only do you mediate the end of the marriage, but it's the financial piece of it too, which is oftentimes either kids or the financial piece of it are probably the two biggest parts of a divorce for people to go through. So I'd love to hear a little bit about what that process looks like.
Certainly, not to be cute about it, but when you think about divorce, there are four main topics. You
Mhm.
have the parenting plan, child support, alimony, and property division.
Yeah.
Three of the four of those are financial.
Mhm.
And I've never had, well, I have had clients say this, but when they say it, I usually retort with something different, or they say, well, I want what the law says I'm entitled to. And I
Mm.
look at them and I say, well, what if what the law says you're entitled to isn't good enough, isn't enough, won't let you buy groceries for your kids or buy a new car or survive? Why don't we talk about what it is you really need? Let's talk about what really makes sense. And that's where, having a finance background, you really, people are afraid of numbers. I noticed math is not people's favorite subject. It's mine, but it's not everyone's. And so I try to bring that sort of layperson's mentality and say, look, sure, we've got the guideline here in this state, and here's what it says. Let's take a look at a budget. If
Mhm.
what you get, does that really meet your needs? It doesn't look like it to me. Let's talk about what you really need. And we take them through this process where we show them the whole, with support, with property, with assets, with liabilities, with parenting time. What does this whole thing look like? Because a lot of times what happens, people will come to us and say, oh, we have it all figured out. We're going to sell the house.
Yeah.
That's one of 1,000 things that you have to think about, right? So we try to get them to think about big picture. Yes, we always say we mediate in the shadow of the law. We can't ignore it, but we want to make sure that we give people realistic settlements, ones that are going to let them not only survive, but thrive as they rebuild their new lives. And that's a big difference. Litigation, you're just grinding yourself to a halt. You're getting in front of a judge. Judge is going to rule however they rule, God only knows.
Yeah.
Mediation, you have the power to decide what works for you, your unique situation. Even if guideline says one thing, you can agree to a different thing. And I really think that's very empowering and really does help people relaunch and really be able to know that, okay, moving forward, this is my best.
Oh, hold on, Joe. Just one moment. We're gonna have you repeat that. We might be losing you. Just a moment.
Oh, you're frozen. Oh.
Yeah, it might be there we go. You're back.
There
Okay.
we are.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. We're gonna have you repeat the last section of what you just said when because you started to tell us about going from striving not just surviving but thriving, and then what that relaunch will look like. So and then we kind of lost you for a moment. So tell us a little, if you could just repeat that last portion of going through that
Sure.
process when they're facing litigation versus going through mediation.
Yeah. So when you're litigating, you're leaving the decision up to a judge, and the judge is going to decide however they decide.
Mhm.
Whatever that means, I don't know, but it might not be good enough for you. They might follow some statute or some law or some guidance, or they woke up on the wrong side of the bed today and they decided, you look like the guy who cut me off in the parking lot. Boom. A lot of people don't realize that. Judges are humans. They're going to do what it is they want to do. In mediation, you have the ability to negotiate what works for you and your own unique situation so that you'll be okay. You have the best shot at recovering and being able to move forward, not just what the law says you're entitled to or having to something. So that to me is really the power of mediation.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. That's awesome. And you bring up an important piece. Like as you're talking about your work, one thing that we talk about within the real estate space, especially as it pertains to some of the biases that we bring to the table, is what they reference to as that fairness paradox, right? Where we believe in justice and fairness, but yet our biases and our stereotypes often interfere with our actual action, behavior, and in a judge's instance, decisions, right? And what they bring to the table. You could wear an outfit that judge, their spouse wore, or their former spouse wore, that triggers
Right.
that, right?
Absolutely. It's funny, Natalie, you bring up a good point in that when we watch TV, so I'm a big fan of the CSI and the crime dramas. And, with commercials, 44 minutes, because it's really only 44 minutes of
Mhm.
TV with commercials.
Mhm.
And you watch 44 minutes of a show, and in 44 minutes, they've identified and captured the perpetrator, tried them, and they're rotting in jail. So it's great. It's easy, 44 minutes. So people think, well, if I go into a court, that's exactly what's going to be happening. In less than an hour, I'm going to be found just and correct and right and in the right, and I'll get everything I asked for. The big difference a lot of people fail to realize is that when you see those TV shows and when you think about crime, that's a court of laws. So we all know, I think it's pretty safe to say, we all know it's not cool to kill somebody. I'm pretty sure we're all on that page, right?
We are all on the same
So
page. Yes.
we're good. That's
Yes.
good. We've established a good bar here. We know what's right, what's wrong. When we get into family, when we get into the whole divorce situation, that's a court of equity, not a court of laws. Meaning, whatever the judge thinks is fair, whatever the parties think is fair and equitable. Well, when I work with clients, I remind them, for example, I'm an only child, so as long as I get everything, I think that's fair. That's my mantra. Hey,
Fair
I didn't
enough.
have to
Yes.
share. I didn't have any siblings, right? And
Yes.
that could be the mentality of that judge. That judge could look at you and say, like you said, well, you know what? I don't like your haircut. Yep, you get to keep the house. And that happens, and people lose their minds thinking like, wait, that's not fair. Well, that's what the judge thought was fair. So instead
Yeah.
of leaving it up to them, bring that control back into your world, into your space, and you all decide what's fair rather than leaving it to that stranger. That's really a great point. We all have our own biases, our
Yeah.
own things that we bring to the table. We just can't help it, and they show up every single day in how we act and react and negotiate.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're able to, going the mediation route is going to be so much more equitable for a couple than it would be for going through a court. Where,
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
because who knows better what you and your kids need than you? That's what I
Right.
thought. Like, stranger who met you for 15 minutes in a courtroom and
Yeah.
has like thousands of cases they're probably dealing with. They
Yeah.
they want
Yeah.
you out of there. No disrespect to you, but they just want you to go, right? You're
That's
adults,
true.
figure it out on your
Mhm.
own.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Wow.
Joe, how did you find yourself in this space? What led you to becoming a mediator?
Oh my goodness. Well, I was not on a playground as a kid. I can tell you that going,
No.
hey,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have
This is
Yeah.
not one of the job. It's like doctor, teacher, lawyer, mediator. No, it's
yeah, that's no. Yeah, cowboy, astronaut.
no,
It's
exactly.
not on my list,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
No, man. Well, I was working in a company and I had worked for large publishing companies in my corporate days. And I was what was known as the director of sales administration. So in my role, I had the sales department and I had the legal department. And what we were doing is we were selling these large publications, large subscriptions to these multinational corporations. And so here's how it would go. Salesperson would go in, make the deal, want the deal to close. I want to get my commission check. I got to go, go, go. Can we just sign this thing today? It's Friday. The month is closing. Legal department is like, hold your horses. We have to read the contract. We have to scrutinize over all the commas, make sure there's not a period out of place or a T that's not crossed. And we're going to drag our feet for 6 months.
Mm.
I'm in the middle with the salespeople yelling at me, come on, Joe, I got to make my numbers. And the legal department going, hold your horses. Meanwhile, the customer now is like, listen, you guys, I would like to give you lots of money. Would you like lots of my money? If you can, please figure it out amongst yourselves.
Yeah.
So I found myself in a weird way mediating between the customer the salespeople and the legal department. And I found that I actually enjoyed that role of being somewhat like the neutral. Like, we know we want the deal to happen. We want to get the salesperson paid. We don't want to give away something that's going to harm us. How can we all work together to find the true win-win-win? And after I was doing that for a while, I really kind of enjoyed that role. Flash forward, our company, we had some downsizing, there was a buyout, corporate buyout. I got downsized. I'm thinking, what am I going to do here?
Mhm.
And I'm actually having lunch with my mother-in-law, and she says, I have a friend who's a mediator. That sounds a lot like what you are doing. It's like back in 2006 or 2007. And she's like, maybe you should talk to her. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I talked to her, and she was working with a police union in Jersey City, New Jersey. And she was that person that you always see on the news where the negotiations are happening all night, and there's the people sitting across from the table, and she's the one in the middle trying to get everybody to agree. And I'm like, that looks really exciting. So I thought about that, like that kind of, that sort of mediation. And then I really kind of flashed back, as you may know from reading my bio and from our website, my parents litigated their divorce. So I was a kid, dragged on through my high school years. I sat in the back of the courtroom, the classic, all the cliches that, oh, this isn't going to happen to us. Yep, happened to me. My parents, they argued so much. I never saw my dad again after I saw him in court when I was 15. That was the last time I ever saw him. And that really just became a natural extension. It almost found me in a way, right? That I was mediating. Then all of a sudden I realized I have this background, I have this story, and in a way I can use that to kind of heal some of my own traumas and try to right some wrongs that happened and help people avoid what happened to me. And while I won't say that what I do is happy, like I'm not planning a vacation or an anniversary party for someone,
Right.
I do really feel at the end of the day, the changes and the things that I'm doing for families, helping them prevent that destruction, has that ripple effect. You throw that stone in the pond and it ripples out, and the number of ripples, so their kids and their kids' kids will not be impacted the way I was. And it really, boy, oh boy, like 2020 in hindsight kind of thing. Yeah, this is exactly what I was supposed to do.
Yeah.
And so it all just came together, and here we are doing it so many years later, and it's very rewarding. And it's one of the most difficult jobs, but definitely a job I love. And really, when I work with clients and finish them and get them to a place where they can still be friendly and still be at their kids' graduation and still talk to each other, that's a good day in my book, despite the marriage ending. So yeah, so really twisty turny kind of, but here I am. So yeah.
Yeah, I think, I mean, I see families that I know that have gone the mediation way versus gone the litigation way, and it's totally different outcome.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so if you can do that, gosh,
Yeah. And the
that's,
outcome's the same. Like, in other words,
yeah,
you're divorced.
Right.
That's the outcome.
Right.
Now, how you get there, I could drive from California to New York on back roads or highways.
yeah,
I could, there's all different ways I can get there. But at the end of the day, I'm going to go from California to New York.
yeah,
And we look at people and tell them it's a fraction of the cost, it's a fraction of the time, it's the same net result. And I've had situations where, a quick story is, I had a client couple, very wealthy couple, and they were very nice. But they were of the mind, I think both of them were of the mind that they were getting the short end of the stick, whatever end of the stick they were on. And I told him, I said, well, I can't tell you what to do, right? I'm a neutral third party. But what I can tell you is that what I'm seeing here is within the scope of what I see in cases like yours. Okay. If it's not like you're paying $1 in alimony when most people pay 20,000, like, okay, yes, I'm going to raise my hand and say there's something's awry. They went away. They each retained attorneys. I happen to know the attorneys, so they called me in to try to mediate with the attorneys. So there's five of us now, and it was going back and forth, and then they continued on the path with the attorneys. They went away. I didn't hear from them. I was kind of like, what a bummer.
yeah.
I'd say about 9 months later, I got an email from the husband apologizing to me. This is odd.
Wow.
And he's like, Joe, I just wanted to say on behalf of both of us, we're sorry. We should have listened to you.
Hmm.
The amount we spent on the lawyer, on our respective lawyers. I think it was about
Mm-hmm.
$50,000
Mm-hmm.
on one issue. And the number that we came up with in mediation, I think was, I want to say it was like $250 different of the alimony, monthly alimony. This was a
Wow.
wealthy couple, so the numbers were big, but in the
Yeah.
scale of it, it was a small percentage of the number,
Yeah.
right? Um, and the math would not have worked out. In other words, the duration, they spent more on the legal fees than
Mhm.
they got in the alimony number, right? And it
Yeah.
was like, and I was like, they're so nice people too. Like they got crazed. Their
Yeah.
friends were whispering, like, what are you doing that for? You should got a lawyer. You got to protect yourself. And then at the end of the day, they were like, gosh, we should not have done that. And of course, I'm not going to say you're right. You shouldn't have,
Right.
Yeah.
because I really felt for them. They were super nice folks and they just fell into the trap. They fell into the clutches of the system, into the whisperings of their friends and family. They listened, and then that was it. And then they were done, right? So
Yeah.
that's part of it too. That's kind of a caution for the listeners, is that yeah, you could get more, but you could also get less. And you could spend a lot of money to get less. And it might still not be what you wanted. So mediate, right? That's kind of how we say, give it a shot. If you're not happy, you can always retain attorneys, but I'd rather you come see us first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we know that from our industry, the whispers of the families and friends that
Yeah.
will literally
I can only imagine.
destroy transactions.
Of
And
course.
Yeah.
wow, wow.
Absolutely.
Yeah, right. Because suddenly they're professional real estate agents, they're
Mhm.
lawyers, they're
Yes.
doctors, they're sure,
Sectors.
it's not like I've been doing this for 25 years, right?
Right.
What do we
Sure, you're right. You're
Yeah.
absolutely right,
Yeah.
whatever, And it's
And
hard,
they
right?
too are like watching the television series that you're
Of
seeing, right?
course.
So in 44 minutes or even in 30 minutes, they're looking and they're
Right.
like, no, you deserve so much more and I'm here for you until you get it.
Right.
And
Yeah.
$50,000 later, bye.
Exactly. Yeah. And we're all mad at each other. And then
Yeah.
now it's all burnt, everything's burned to the ground, right? And you say to
Yes.
yourself, look, there's a financial cost. I'm a numbers guy by nature. I understand
Right.
that. But there is an actual bigger cost, and that's the emotional cost.
Yeah.
Certainly, there's numbers and math and all of those things, and child support and alimony, or, credits on real estate transactions. But
Mhm.
how good would it feel for this to be over? How good would it feel for you to
Yeah.
move on? Right. And people haggling over, in your world, our world, you look at them, you say, 10 years from now, is this really going to matter? It's
Yeah.
going to matter if you let it matter. If you
Right.
keep killing yourself over this one last detail, you're going to be mad and angry for years, but you just move on and let it go. Right.
Well, and it,
And
and
that's
it
hard.
also it impacts the relationships with
Sure.
kids, with the two of them. I mean,
Hmm.
trying to co-parent after going through a nasty litigation as opposed to being able to talk through a mediation is just, yeah, it impacts it hugely.
Yeah, kids want their parents there. They don't care that you're not husband and wife, right?
No.
To them, you are mom and dad, or
Yeah.
dad and dad, or mom and mom.
Yeah.
That's all you are.
That's it.
And so they don't care what all's going on here. They want you at the soccer game or the graduation or the wedding or whatever it is. And to not have parents, that's unfortunately what I see sometimes somewhere along the way, and I don't know, because I kind of feel swindled on this, as we became adults, right? And now we have to be responsible and pay bills and, you
Yes.
know, right, do the right thing and, all
Yes.
those kinds of nonsense, right?
Yes.
Right, but your kids are looking at you to act like that, and you need to. And a lot of times, you'll get people in a divorce situation, they forget that. They'll act like these
Mhm.
impetuous children, and your kids are counting on you. They need you to be the adult. I know it's hard. I know you're not happy about it. I know this is terrible. I get that. But I need you. They need you to step up and bite your tongue and just say, yep, we're going to do this. And I want what's best for my kids. I want to put them first. And if that means sitting next to your ex in the audience at the dance recital and waving, that's what it means, right? You don't have to like it, but you have to do it. And that really is the key takeaway. We try to keep the temperature of the negotiations much, much cooler, so that there aren't hurtful things that are being slung around in the process that you're not sitting there stewing over once it's over. And that's another, I really think that respectful communication piece really is a key component of mediation. So,
Love that.
Absolutely. Well, Joe, you've talked about a couple of things. You've given us so many nuggets, but one thing
mm,
that really stood out to me is at the very beginning, you kicked off letting us know that when we're looking at the process of going through a divorce, it's not just the ending, but the realization that it's also a beginning, right? So getting from
Right.
that point of seeing the end of something and then having an opportunity to create what the next season, next chapter looks
Yeah.
like.
Yep.
And then you talk about respectful communication. It sounds like beyond the mediation itself, that there's a lot of coaching and guidance that's also happening with your clients. Um, per se. What does that look like
Yeah.
when you have, maybe two people, that it's not as simple as the couple that you shared, but they're just
Right.
not on the same page, but they decided to go through the route of mediation to begin with. How do you show up in that space to help get them to that respectful communication, and the ultimate outcome that everyone is looking for is that, the successful divorce?
Mhm.
What do you do to get them there?
Yeah, a couple things. So one thing that's a little unique about us, my wife is my business partner and she's a divorce coach. We
Mm,
work together and we
perfect.
don't see clients simultaneously in the sense that we're not all in the meeting at the same time. I'm always working with clients one on two. So I always have both spouses
Mhm.
with me at all times.
Okay.
She, on the other hand, is working with clients one on one. And so
Mhm.
she works with them confidentially. I work with them confidentially.
Yes.
And together we can help at least bridge some of those communication gaps. So I might have a session, it didn't go well. That person schedules a coaching call with her. They vent, and she says, okay, what pushed your buttons? What can we do to keep you calm in your next session? Helps
Mm,
with that. And so that's one huge piece that really helps. And that I think is a differentiator of how we practice. We do try to look at it holistically, right? We look at it tactically, financially, and emotionally. And the
right.
emotional piece is a big one. More specifically, though, to that question, Natalie, is in the mediation space, there's techniques that we can use as mediators. So, for example, as you would imagine, sometimes things get heated. And in a weird way, we have a saying in mediation, and it's a saying that mental health professionals also use, where they say, don't get in the box.
Mm,
This couple is in a box. They're trapped in their cardboard box. They've been in this box for a while, yelling and screaming at each other.
mm,
You might be an observer of the box. You're standing outside the box. You might be right next to the box, but never get in the box.
yes.
And so, right? And so we don't get in the box. But what's happening is they're almost because their communication has been so dysfunctional, I look at them as children, that they've reverted back to these childlike lizard brain. I'm going to stomp and clomp and until I hold my breath and get my way. And they're looking for you to be parental or judgmental and say, you're right, you're wrong, and this and that. And when
Yeah.
I don't do that, they start to realize that it's falling on deaf ears. And so that's one way that we kind of like, when kids throw a tantrum, sometimes you just let them freak out.
Yep.
They're
Yep.
going to tire themselves out eventually, right? That's like little kids who are I'm going to hold my breath. Great. Good luck with that. Well, I'll be
Yes.
here when you're done. Right? Because
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
it's not going to work. They don't know it's not going to work.
Yes.
So that happens. The other thing is we also can use that with active listing, quiet listing. So that's another thing. When people are really amped up, a lot of times I'll start. So tell me, okay, so tell me, why do you feel that way? And
Mm,
it's amazing how people reflect and mimic your behavior,
yeah.
right? If somebody gets amped up, you get amped up. If they calm down, you feel calm.
Mm,
So doing that, leaning in, listening to one person and ignoring the other one while they're shouting, and just oh, sorry. Natalie, could you repeat that? I'm so sorry because I couldn't heard you because Bob was yelling really loudly and I had a hard time hearing you. And I genuinely want to hear you. Please repeat that. Thank you. And that kind of starts sending signals to each of them that this is not okay.
Yeah.
And that's your way of being parental and controlling it. Now, the other advantage I have is people know what the alternative is. And as you're getting to know me and as clients get to know me, I take my profession and my job very seriously, but I'm also a person and a straight shooter. And I will say flat out to people, I say, you know what? Say, guys, listen, based on what I'm hearing, it doesn't seem like mediation is going to work for you. Now, when we hang up, I'm going to walk my dog, maybe pour myself a glass of wine, have dinner with my wife, watch a program, put my head on the pillow, and I'll think of you fondly, but I'm going to rest easy knowing I did everything I could to help you move forward.
Yeah.
You, on the other hand, are in for 2 to 3 years, $200,000 to $300,000 in legal bills, and probably hating each other and your kids hating you for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
what are we going to do here, right? Let's see. Here's the
Yes.
grenade. me pull the pin out and hand it to
Yes.
you.
Yeah.
And that really does really get their attention, because I think they're just posturing for the other person, because that dynamic tells me that's been a push-pull where somebody pleads and cajoles and the other person gives in.
Yeah.
And in this case, they're the one pleading with me and I'm not giving in, and they're realizing it's falling on deaf ears, and it's like, fine, we'll keep going. Okay, no problem. And okay, then I just keep moving on. And once you keep doing that enough, people start realizing that this isn't going to work, and we're just going to move through the process, and we're going to get on with it. And then whatever they do after, that's up to them. I really do hope they go to therapy and get
Yes.
counseling for their anger, or for their issues, or for whatever it is. But in my space, that's not acceptable, and that's how between Cheryl's help and the way I communicate and not get in that box and engage with them, that's really how we help them understand that your dysfunctional pattern that you've been probably doing for 10, 15, 20, God only knows how many years, that doesn't play in my world. And so I'm a professional, I'm an adult, so are you, and we're going to act like it. And it sounds a little obnoxious, and I apologize if it comes across that way, but I have to be somewhat of the disciplinarian in addition to the cheerleader of rooting them on and help saying, you can mediate, you can do this. So I wear many hats in my role, that's for sure.
So when they contract with you, so it's included the sessions with Cheryl, your wife?
Yeah, she's optional, but yes, if they
Okay.
want to work with her, they can, or they can choose not to. We don't hoist her upon them. Of course, me, you have to work with. I'm the
Yes.
mediator. You have no choice.
Yeah.
But sometimes folks have therapists already, and if they
Okay.
do, that's great. And I'm like, you know what? As long as you've got somebody to talk to, because men are famous for this, and I can say this, as a guy. Um, guys are stoic and they're fine and everything's fine, fine, and so leave me alone. That arm will grow back. Don't worry. Like it's just
Rub some dirt on it. It'll be
dirt
fine.
on it, spit on it, right, sacrament. I got some dirt right in
Yeah.
there. And so that's it. You want people to just understand that this is devastating. As much as you might have gotten to a place where maybe people are amicable, maybe they're at a place where I see this in a lot of the long term, what we call the gray divorces, couples married 30 years.
Yeah.
These folks, they're already separate. They raise their kids. They're both respectful to each other. They just want different things in life. And they go their separate ways. And even though they're coming across as really cool, you have to recognize you spent your life, like 30 some odd years of your life with this person. That's going to hit you like a ton of bricks eventually. So talk to somebody about it, process it, and so that you can dust yourself off, shake it off, and again, move forward and rebuild, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So your job really is kind of like that guide that
Yeah.
just guides them through the process. And sometimes you have to, and same thing in our jobs, is sometimes we have to, tell them the honest truth, and sometimes they don't love it, but
No,
what we have to
right.
do. Yeah.
Absolutely. I say, look, you might not like what I have to say, but you'll always respect what I have to say and appreciate it.
Yeah.
And at the end of the process, you will both appreciate this. When I have clients and when we start, and even our very first meeting, even before they become clients, I'll say to both of them, I want you to know right now, as a neutral third party, it's my job to help you negotiate an agreement. And at the end of the day, if both of you are slightly annoyed with me, I have done my job perfectly. That means I've gotten you to give something, and I've gotten you to give something, and you got and you got and you gave and you gave, and I've annoyed you sometimes and I've annoyed you sometimes, but at the end of the day, we got to an agreement you both find fair. And they laugh, and then invariably 9 times out of 10 when we're done, they go, in session 3, you really pissed me off. But I'm glad you told me that up front, because I was really angry with you. Oh yeah, in session 2, you were bothering me. It's like, oh good. So you and 2, you and 3, good. I did my job. Both of you are
Check.
angry.
Yes.
Check, score. Right. And it's true, because you want them to know that I'm not on anyone's side. I'm on your collective side, the family unit, the couple, the whatever it is. And they don't fully understand that until you get into the negotiation, and then they start getting the point of, oh yeah.
Thank you for joining us today on the Reignite Resilience podcast. We hope you had some aha moments and learned a few new real-life ideas to fuel the flames of passion. Please subscribe on your favorite streaming platform, like or download your favorite episodes, and of course, share with your friends and family. We look forward to seeing you again next time on Reignite Resilience.